why did the Spanish Empire last for so long?
Well, that's a wonderfully difficult question, which I will try to attempt. I always like to emphasize the enormous feat that this involved. Let us just remember that the Spanish crown ruled over a territory of approximately 5 million square miles. In comparison, British America only covered about 300,000 square miles. So this fact alone gives us an idea of the enormous challenges that this posed. And since I'm a historian, I will start by mentioning precedent. And I think it's very important that Spain had just completed the reconquest, expelling the Moors from Spain in 1492. And this gave the Spanish monarchy the authority, the prestige, the credibility that I think it would otherwise have lacked. And additionally, it gave the conquistadores themselves a vision and a methodology which they used in the conquest of America. It's interesting to note, for example, that Cortés described the Aztec temples as mosques, because, of course, that was the nearest comparison that was intellectually, conceptually available to him. And his own father, in fact, took part in the campaign to conquer Granada. So I think that initially, the initial success was partly due to that. Moving on in time, I think it's very important to underline the role of the crown. The Spanish crown, unlike what happened in Britain with the British colonies, was immediately active and visible in the Americas. In other words, the crown intervened almost at once, to some extent to conquer the conquistadores, in other words, to bring the conquistadores themselves under the authority of the crown, but also to protect the indigenous peoples, who were, after all, vassals of the crown, from the excesses that the conquistadores might commit. They also had to intervene, of course, because of the abundance of precious metals of silver and gold which were discovered in America, and therefore in order to impose some kind of law and order. But what I would emphasize above all is that the Spanish crown created a very modern system of government. I think it's probably true to say that what they established in the Americas was more modern than anything that existed in early modern Europe at the time. And of course, this was also partly possible because they were doing so from scratch, because they were able to create new institutions without having to worry about overcoming the kinds of obstacles which they had faced in Spain. And by the way, the fact that the crown was very keen not to see the development of a local American aristocracy has to do with this as well. So they were able to mold the new the state that emerged in the Americas and the new society more or less as they pleased. I think it's also important to emphasize that this was initially a Castilian enterprise, really, more than a Spanish one. And this means that Castilian laws were used in furthering the conquest. The Siete Partidas, the famous 13th century compendium, a legal compendium, which proved very versatile and adaptable to the circumstances that they met in the Americas. But I think that the important thing to remember, therefore, is above all this institutional political dimension, which was crucial.